Welcome to Feedback Not Received. I was going to do a bit for the intro, and I'm not going to anymore, and I'll explain why. I was going to do a whole bit where I started the episode speaking French, which I will explain why I was going to speak French in a second. I decided not to do that because I had a migraine yesterday and this morning, and so I am tired. Apologies for the potentially low energy of this episode, because my fellow migraine havers, you will understand that even though the headache is gone for the most part, I am now essentially in the migraine hangover stage of things. For anyone who doesn't regularly get migraines, it's not just about the headache. It's like a whole 3-phase thing. There's like the lead up and then the headache and then the come down or the hangover essentially. So I had a migraine yesterday and all night, and then I woke up this morning. I felt like shit, and then I had breakfast, and then I went back to sleep for like 2 hours, and then the headache was mostly gone when I woke up like 2 hours later, which is good. It's nice when that happens. It's also a little bit annoying when that happens because it's like I went to sleep at like 9:30 last night because I didn't feel well, and I slept all night. Well, except I woke up in the night because I still had the headache, but like regardless, I was sleeping for the most part of 10 hours. And then when I woke up, I still had a headache. So why is it that magical extra 2 hours of after I woke up and had breakfast and then went back to sleep cured me somewhat? Which is just like, that's probably the most annoying part of it for me, is like, I just slept. Why do the cat's here? Why do I have to sleep more? Anyway, whatever. Hi. Yes, probably the most irritating part is that, like, why do I have to go back to sleep? That's actually something I struggle with a lot with migraines in general, is like the self-care aspect of it, which is likely a result of me having worked in retail for many, many years, where if I took the day off, I just simply did not get paid. I convinced myself, like, oh, it's not that bad, like, I'm fine, right? It's fine. It's just like I'm just being a baby about it, which is not the case. And as I've gotten older, actually, my ability to ignore things like that has become less and less, because when you are no longer like 19 years old, your body starts to be like, please stop doing this. But yeah, the self-care aspect of like, I do just need to like go and lie down in a dark room and not do anything for a few hours is tricky for me, because like partially that having worked in retail, like, I don't know, gaslighting I did to myself of like, no, it's fine, but also because like anyone who deals with migraines or anything that like frequently makes you unable to do things or makes doing things incredibly painful, it's really fucking annoying to be like, I have plans for my day, and yet now I have to go lie down. And not even if I necessarily have plans, but it's like, no, it's the weekend. I want to watch the show that I've been wanting to watch. I don't want to have to go lie down in a dark room for 4 hours, But I did that, for 2 hours this morning. And, shocker, it does work. Self-care is good. But anyway, all that to say that, yeah, the energy levels, even though I no longer really have the headache, although it's sort of lingering anyway, but the energy levels today may be low. It'll be a low-key sort of episode, because the other thing is, sometimes then as soon as I start feeling a little bit better, I'm like, great, everything's fine now. I can keep my energy up, I can be entertaining, I can do whatever. It's like, no, I do need to try and keep it a little low-key so that I don't give myself another headache. So, all that being said, the reason I was originally going to open the episode with some French was because of a thing that has happened on the internet this week-ish, which is Steve Le Poisson. If you are on TikTok, you probably, well, maybe. I say this, if you are on TikTok, you've probably seen him, but obviously with the vastness of TikTok and the internet, maybe you haven't. Steve Le Poisson went viral on French TikTok in the past couple of weeks. You know, I came across my algorithm last week, but it's, you know, he was a meme on French TikTok. And I do get French TikTok on my algorithm because I am Canadian, so I get French Canadian TikTok and also sometimes just straight up French TikTok. Oh, the cat. Give him a second to get settled here. Which I like, honestly. I enjoy getting French and French Canadian TikTok, or non-Canadians. French is Canada's second official, or I shouldn't say second official language. English and French are both the official languages of Canada. They are equally, I say second language because French is not my first language. My first language is English. So English was the first official language I learned to speak. French was the second, meaning it was my second official language that I learned. But anyway, French and English are both Canada's official languages. Which is, I don't even know why I started talking about that. My brain is broken. So that, another thing about migraines, which people might find relatable, is that they make me stupid. Like, it is incredibly difficult to describe to people who don't also get migraines, but literally when I get auras and stuff, it's like I can't read, and not because of I do get visual auras, but it's not the visual disruption that makes it's like I'm looking at the page and my brain is just going, huh, what? And it's still happening. Anyway, French Canadian TikTok, I do enjoy it partially. Oh, this is why I was talking about the official languages. Oh my god, sorry. I learned French in school. I believe we started learning French when I was in grade 3 because I wasn't in like a French immersion program. But I learned French throughout middle school, like grade school, middle school, and high school. And I think the regular curriculum, you would only have to learn French up to grade 10, maybe. At least at the time, I took French up to grade 12. So I was in extended French in like grade 7 and 8, but that didn't really make a huge difference in terms of my French abilities. Anyhow, my point is that in my daily life, in an English-speaking part of Canada, I don't get a ton of opportunity to practice French. And so I do appreciate getting French Canadian TikTok because, like, you know, it is a skill that I would like to maintain in some level. And I'm by no means am I fluent, but it's nice sometimes to watch videos that I'm like, oh, I actually know what's happening. Like, my French listening is not so badly degraded. I can actually understand what's going on. The other thing being that in school, that we weren't really taught French Canadian French. We weren't taught Quebecois French. We were taught like France French, like, in terms of the accent and even any of the slang that they would have taught us about. It wasn't really particularly, it's not that it's not useful. Obviously French Canadian French and France French are the same language, but the accent's incredibly different. And the slang, like in terms of if I were to go to Quebec, my accent is like immediately not just, oh, you're an Anglophone Canadian, but like the French you're speaking is not Quebecois French anyway. All that to say is I there's a reason that I get French TikTok, and it's partially because I do engage with it. And so Steve Le Poisson has been on French TikTok this week and for the past little bit. It's just a meme, right? It's Steve Le Poisson. Le Poisson Steve. He's orange. He has arms and legs. That's pretty much it. So the reason I was going to open speaking French, so I was going to do like a whole French pop quiz of like, okay, what does it mean? But I'm too tired. I'm too tired to quiz you about Steve Le Poisson. Anyway, it's funny and it's good. And actually, I saw the creator, who I believe is like a French creator, not a French Canadian. I think there's like a full version of Steve Le Poisson like on Spotify. So like shout out to them. It's a very catchy little song, and people are making little like animations of Steve Le Poisson. I think I actually saw a video of someone who had like, you know, those like it was like a mascot costume essentially of Steve Le Poisson. And I don't know if they made it or what, but like that's impressive. So yes, Steve Le Poisson Steve, has taken French TikTok by storm this week. And it's been stuck in my head actually. Literally all week I've been walking around like Steve Le Poisson. Steve le Poisson. Poisson Steve. It's just been like going through my head. Like I've been in my office like, il est orange. Anyway. He is orange. You are. He's an orange Kit Kat. Yes. I do not have an orange fish. I have an orange cat, though. And we match, as people have pointed out in my comments. Yes, I match with my cat. I've actually had him since he was just a little baby. One of my neighbor's cats had kittens, and I adopted him when he was like 8 weeks old. And, you know, perhaps my choice was slightly biased because I am orange and he is orange. And, you know, also orange cats are the best ones. Anyone who has an orange cat can agree with me that they are the best cats. Yes. And he's kind of an old man. I've thought for quite a while about getting a second cat to keep him company, but because when we initially got him when I was still living with my parents, we had another cat, so she was maybe 15 when we got him as a kitten. So he did grow up with another cat, but ever since she passed away, he has been an only cat for most of his life, honestly. And I just, honestly, at this point, I don't think he based on his interactions with, like, cats, or, like, if he sees a cat, like, through the door or whatever, I don't think he wants company. But next time, well, he's never allowed to die because, you know, you're never allowed to die. I will probably get 2 cats. Whenever I do eventually get another cat, I'll get 2. Generally, that's best practice. Anyhow, I'm just rambling about my cat. I could talk about him forever because he's my favorite boy. He's my favorite boy. He's so cute. I just put lip balm on. Ugh. So now I have cat hair stuck to my lip balm, which is not pleasant. Anyway. Steve le Poisson is orange, and I am orange, and he is orange. We are orange collectively, which also means, you know, people joke about orange cats, like there's only one brain cell, and like which orange cat has the brain cell that day. I feel like ginger people can be included in that. I definitely don't have the brain cell today, but it's because it was stolen from me by a migraine. Let me look at my list again. Oh yeah. Okay, something I have written on my list is baked potatoes. And to be quite honest, I don't know if I wrote that there because because there was something that I thought was pertinent to talk about with regards to baked potatoes, or if I genuinely just got my podcast weekly notes mixed up with my meal plan / grocery list and wrote baked potatoes on there, because I have been eating baked potatoes this week. I bought potatoes and I was making baked potatoes like for my dinners. So I don't know why I wrote baked potatoes on the podcast list, but I will say baked potatoes slap. I love baked potatoes. They're good. It's the British in me. I'm like, yes, potatoes. You know what? That is not a crime. It's not a crime to love a good baked potato. I don't even like sour cream very much, so I'm honestly really boring with my baked potatoes. I like cheese and butter. But here's the thing, actually. I will talk about this. Since it's on the list, whether or not it was intended to be on the podcast list, it is on there, and I'll tell you this. This week has been one of those weeks of, like, not really knowing what to eat, or, like, even being uninspired in terms of meal planning. You know how it is. Anyone who has to regularly meal plan and grocery shop and cook for themselves will understand what I mean. And what was I watching? I was watching some food video or something where, like, baked potatoes, like baked potatoes from, like, a food truck was featured. I don't remember where. And I was like, damn, baked potatoes. Yeah, and so that's what I've been eating. To be clear, I haven't only been eating baked potatoes. Like, first of all, different thing for breakfast, different thing for lunch. The baked potatoes have been dinner, but also supplemented by other vegetables, like maple syrup carrots. I don't know if that may be an incredibly Canadian thing, but it's like basically glazed carrots, like carrots, and then you glaze them with maple syrup. Very good. Highly recommend. It sounds incredibly Canadian. I don't know if it's something that people outside of Canada would eat regularly, but even just me saying that, I'm like, yeah. Have you ever tried putting some maple syrup on some carrots? Hey, bud? It's really fucking good. Would recommend. Anyway, supplemented by other vegetables. But baked potatoes on their own are actually quite nutritionally sound. It doesn't quite give you everything you need, but particularly if you supplement with like other things, other source of protein or whatever, which I haven't done, but you know. Yeah, so whether or not I intended to put baked potatoes on the list, they were there, and now you know, and I am enjoying myself. I think in terms of the preparation of potatoes, I would say like mashed potatoes is the superior potato delivery mechanism. I love mashed potatoes, particularly like mashed potatoes with gravy. So like any sort of like roast dinner, Thanksgiving dinner, mashed potatoes with gravy. A++, S tier potato. I don't know if I can rank french fries. Like store-bought or fast food french fries, I don't think can rank on this list because like it's not like, I don't know. But homemade french fries, like if you make your own french fries, are delicious. But I think I would put like, I think it would be like mashed potatoes, and then I think baked potatoes would be my second favorite potato delivery method, and then maybe french fries. Although also sometimes I do this, like new potatoes, like the little round potatoes, little baby potatoes, if you parboil them and then in a cast iron pan, like smash them with like a spatula or something, so they don't quite come, it's not like mashed potatoes, they're like still kind of held together, but they're like flattened, and like just fry them like that on like both sides and sprinkle them with like Parmesan and then some herbs and like, you know, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt. That's also really good. It's like almost like hash brown, but like also good. Highly recommend trying that, and it's very easy. My only problem with potatoes in general is I don't find they make very good leftovers. Like even mashed potatoes, they just dry out really quickly, right? So like even with like I was making baked potatoes this week, and realistically I could have baked 4 potatoes all at once, but then it's like they keep well. It's just that then they're like dry and like they never reheat nicely. So it's a bit inefficient to make a single baked potato, but it's much nicer when they're fresh. Anyway, how long can I talk about potatoes? Probably much longer than this. And this is this will sound like some like like, you know, quirky, like, oh, I love potatoes so much, but like I do like food quite a lot. I enjoy food in many forms. I find planning and grocery shopping for meals incredibly exhausting, and to be honest, it's not very fun to cook unless you're in my opinion. I don't enjoy cooking for myself as much as I enjoy cooking for a group of people. Like I do love hosting, and I love like I love feeding other people because I don't know, it's just nicer like when you're by yourself. I mean, it's the whole girl dinner thing, right? It's like, well, if it's just me, I can just eat like cereal and some almonds and like an apple and like whatever, right? Or I could eat like a single baked potato and some carrots, and that's fine. But I do like cooking. I like cooking for people particularly. And I really, it stresses me out because I'm always like, oh no, like what if I oversalted it, or what if da 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 da. So I'm always, it's like partially it's stressful, but then also partially I'm like, yes, enjoy the food I made for you. I love giving people gifts. I also like, one of my favorite things around people's birthdays or the holidays is if I see a gift and I'm like, oh, this is perfect for this person, even if it's not something expensive, like if it's something that I know they'll really like regardless of the price of it, I'm like, hell yes. And then I have this problem where like if I buy someone a really good gift and then I have to wait till their birthday to give it to them, for example, I might have bought it like a couple months in advance because it's like, oh, if I think of it, like I'm just gonna buy it and then I'll wait and give it to them. But then I'm literally like, I'm so jazzed by the fact that I got them a gift that I know they're going to love that I'm like physically have to restrain myself from just telling them what I got them, right? Like, so it's the same thing. I love giving people gifts. I love feeding people food that I know they're gonna like, and so I like food. I like talking about food. So when I talk about potatoes, it's not because I'm like, oh wow, I'm so manic pixie dream girl, I love potatoes, lol, random, blah 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 blah. But I do genuinely enjoy eating food, cooking food, and talking about food, so forgive me for that. my parents are foodies and they have instilled that in me as well, which I think is nice, honestly. Like, yeah, I'm very grateful to my parents for that. But I'll stop talking about baked potatoes now and talk about something that's actually relevant. I was gonna do the whole Steve the Poisson bit, and then I'm too tired to. Let's talk about dire wolves, shall we? Dire wolves, made perhaps famous in pop culture by well-known television series and book series, Game of Thrones / Song of Ice and Fire, George R.R. Martin. We're never getting the last book, by the way. You may have seen this past week a company managed to clone some what they have called dire wolves. Fact of the matter is they are not dire wolves. This is the other thing, is I think some people may have been under the impression that dire wolves were a thing that George R.R. Martin invented, or that were an invention of the fantasy genre in general, and that is not true. They were prehistoric wolves. Just FYI, you can't really blame people for that. They do sound very fantastical, and they fit very nicely in a fantasy setting. I mean, giant wolves? Hell yes. And I feel like giant wolves, much like giant spiders, giant wolves do tend to appear in a surprising number of fantasy books. Maybe not surprising, actually. Perhaps the appearance of wolves as a device in fantasy is, reflecting mankind's relationship with canines. Anyhow, the things that these guys cloned were not actually dire wolves, despite their best efforts to convince you otherwise. 3 babies, 3 little white cutie pies. What were their names? Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. Romulus and Remus, I'll take. Those are names that I'm okay with. Khaleesi, that's a fucking stupid name. What? If you were going to give one of them a Game of Thrones related name, why would you name it Khaleesi? Why would you name the wolf Khaleesi? Daenerys Targaryen has absolutely no relation to wolves. Her whole thing is dragons. There's, in fact, a whole subset of characters who have like a very direct relationship to the direwolves in Game of Thrones, and none of them are Daenerys. Dumb fucking rich people. Why would you do that? Also, I'm maybe a little mad that they named one of them Khaleesi. I mean, the whole thing basically just gives publicity stunt. And so it's like, oh, the direwolves, they're just like from Game of Thrones. And I'm like, shut up. Name them, be more creative, do better. You're rich as hell, do better. Anyway, they're very cute. They're little, beautiful little puppies. I mean, puppies of wolves, coyotes, foxes, baby animals in general are adorable. Of course they're adorable. Of course they are. The whole venture is incredibly dumb, though, as has been pointed out by others. It's pretty obvious that they're calling them direwolves for, the vibes, for the publicity of the whole thing. But yeah, basically they didn't clone any prehistoric wolves. They modified the genetics of gray wolves to be somewhat closer to what those prehistoric wolves would have been like, which is fine. But it's a vanity project, right? Like, they're talking about like, oh, we'll be able to reintroduce this incredibly important predator into the natural ecosystem. It's like, motherfucker, what are you talking about? No. Even if first of all, there's only 3 babies, and generally speaking, cloning projects like this result in way more dead or sickly or suffering animals than they do result in healthy, well-functioning animals. I mean, the pet cloning industry is a really good example, right? Where, yes, theoretically, if you're rich enough, you can pay for a clone of your cat. But it's going to start by resulting in a lot of failed clones, some of which will make it to the stage of being alive and then die horrible, painful deaths. So anyway, first of all, even if you do end up with a viable breeding population of actual healthy animals, no. You don't just introduce a genetically modified wolf into the environment and say, look, we did a good job. No. That's not how that's not how conservation works. In fact, has the potential to do a fuck ton of damage to the like, not even talking the genetic modification of it all. Every example that we have of introducing a non-native species, and to be clear, these cloned wolves, even though they're not actually dire wolves, they're also no longer regular gray wolves. They would, I would personally say, these would be considered a non-native species. Every example we have of introducing a non-native species into an environment with the express purpose of helping that environment, pretty much all of them are bad. Have you, like, invasive species? That's a thing. An animal that can outcompete the natural inhabitants of the environment almost always is a really fucking bad idea. Yeah, what is it? Is it cane toads in Australia? Yeah, in Australia. It is the example of the cane toads, actually, as it turns out, apparently not just Australia. Anyhow, yeah, didn't work. What would be another good example? Oh, I just thought of one. The wild boars in North America, also like pythons in like the Florida Everglades. It's never a good idea. So do I think that the intention of this company is to actually introduce a population, like a successful breeding population of these quote unquote dire wolves into the wild? No, I don't think so. I think they are saying that as a way to justify their genetic experiments. I think what they are saying to the public, and maybe even internally justifying to themselves, is, oh, we're doing this so that we can help the ecosystem. No, you're not. No, you're not. Seemingly this company that is doing this is actually working on efforts to clone actual endangered species that maybe could use help increasing their wild populations. Even then, it's like, I don't think cloning is going to solve the problem. Like, particularly because the problem isn't just, oh no, there's not enough of them. Like, the problem that leads to the extinction of existing species is not a natural effect that humans' only role in is to help introduce more of the individuals into the wild. Like, the extinction of large predators, or really any animal in today's ecosystem, is like, we're doing that. And in fact, probably the best way to help those species is not simply by cloning them, but by actually, maybe meaningfully addressing climate change and other environmental protection related issues. What a concept. But no, if you can just clone more of them, why would we bother protecting our gray wolves? If they all die out, we'll just clone more, because we can do that now, right? It's easy. To me, it all just smacks of rich bullshittery. Rich people bullshittery. You have too much money, and it's a vanity project, in my opinion. Not to say that there are absolutely no benefits to this kind of quote-unquote cloning or genetic modification research. Like, there is value in scientific research of this sort. I'm just highly skeptical of this particular line of this research and the stated intentions behind the company's, like, the stated intentions of the company versus what it actually seems like to me, which is a vanity project rather than a scientific endeavor undertaken with a genuine eye towards doing some ecological good in our environment. So I'm a skeptic, but also, I mean, we have seen this pattern repeat itself with many companies in the past. I mean, we could even look to 23andMe, right? Like, oh yes, being able to quickly and relatively cheaply do some genetic testing, even if it's just for out of curiosity of your own background, or to find and reconnect with lost family members, or genetic testing for the purposes of understanding if you have like a hereditary disease that you might not have been aware of, or are at risk of certain health conditions. On the surface level, yes, great, that all sounds good. But then what we saw with 23andMe, I believe they were acquired by another company, or they went bankrupt or some such, and now all of the data that they had collected is potentially up for sale to the highest bidder, which is in fact very likely to lead to some like reinforcing of systemic discrimination based on potential for health conditions, and maybe not even your own potential for a health condition, but even if a family member had done the test, right? Where the initial stated intention, seemingly there is no moral objection to that sort of thing, besides, well, I would disagree with giving my genetic material to a corporation. But if we trust that the corporation's stated goals are the greater good, which we did, unfortunately, we can't actually control what they do after. They can say whatever they want, and ultimately, we have no reason to believe that they will do that. So I feel the same way about this company that's cloning wolves. And they're also trying to clone the woolly mammoth, and it's like, my guy, okay, I could see a line of reasoning that would lead to you thinking we need to clone wolves, right? There is potentially a line of reasoning. Well, no, even with elephants, it's like, yes, elephants are endangered, but the line of reasoning to clone elephants would be the same as the line of reasoning to clone wolves, which would be introducing more individuals into the breeding population. Whatever. At least with the dire wolf thing, it's like, okay, they're close enough to gray wolves that, like, maybe what you're thinking. Anyway, woolly mammoths? What exact good do you think woolly mammoths are going to do to the ecosystem, huh? Like, why do we need woolly mammoths specifically? I think maybe at some point they said, like, oh, we'll stop the illegal ivory trade because we'll have, like, cloned woolly mammoths that we can use, I think. Hold on, I should probably verify that. Yes, one of the founders of the company made a case that cloned mammoths could be used as a source of a legal ivory trade. What if we just didn't? Have you considered that? Why not just not do that? Anyway, as you can probably tell, I'm kind of pissed about the whole thing, and particularly from, like, an environmental standpoint, and also from, like, an animal rights or at least animal welfare perspective. Like, ultimately, at this time, particularly, I'm skeptical of, like, private companies doing this sort of thing. Animal welfare is almost not ever at the forefront. Like, they may make environmentalist claims, but cloning projects like this almost always result in suffering. So I don't know how I feel about all that, particularly with no real, like, reasonable stated goal, right? Anyway, saw a picture of George R.R. Martin posing with one of these direwolf puppies. Oh, good for him. He'll fucking, as we've seen people joking on the internet, he'll do anything but finish that book. Whatever. So it's just a bunch of rich people with too much money playing God. And of course it does lead to Jurassic Park comparisons. But as I have seen pointed out, and as I sort of agree with, my concern is less that these animals are going to go crazy and kill a bunch of people, and more that people are not going to care for the well-being of the animals that they are bringing into this world. So, yeah, whatever. We'll see. There is obviously great potential for these types of projects. Like, it's not that they shouldn't exist, but I just don't trust private companies to do these things with a level of responsibility that I think that anything involving life requires. So, sorry, that's kind of a bummer. It's not very exciting or, like, entertaining. That was just me being like, suffering and ecological destruction. How do we feel about that? Whatever. Moving on. Here's a more lighthearted topic for us. I saw a discussion on the internet this week of the game Grounders, and particularly whether Grounders is a Canadian exclusive thing. So Grounders, what I think is, I'm pretty sure pretty much every kid in school had some version of this game. It's just that we called it Grounders. Kind of is like red light, green light, except it's like one person is like they are the person, and you're trying to avoid getting caught and also avoid being on the ground, because if they shout Grounders and you're on the ground, then you're caught. Then you're out of the game, right? So what it would be like intense parkouring and clambering over like the playground structures to avoid being on the ground while you're playing Grounders. That was it. I think maybe I've seen people call it Sandman too, like a similar game. And so there was this discussion of like, what do you mean like non-Canadians didn't play Grounders or whatever? What I think is the truth is that, like I said, probably most playgrounds had some form of this game, because like it's just a way of using the play structure that was on the playground in a way that's like a little more interesting than just climbing on it. But that discussion did get me thinking about other sort of playground games in general. Reflecting back on my youth, my days in school. God, I sound like I'm like, I'm so old. I'm thinking about my childhood. I do sound like some dowager countess from the Victorian period being like, oh yes, when I was a young lady. Whatever. What I was thinking about was the game Red Rover, which is another one that I'm pretty sure a lot of people played. And at least, I don't know if the version of Red Rover that we played is the version that most people played, but our version of Red Rover was two teams, and you'd be facing each other, and each team would be like standing with their arms, standing either holding hands or like linked arms. I think more often we did holding hands in a line. And then the teams, it was something like they would take turns running at each other basically. And it was like Red Rover, I call you over, and then you'd like run. And if you could break through the arms like of the people, so you would like go through and try and break the hands, break their handhold, then you got to go back to your team. But if you couldn't, then you had to join the other team. And eventually it was like, okay, whichever team just has no people left, I think. Roughly that. I mean, it's also been a long time, but that was like the version that we played. The core element, the core game mechanic there was running into people and trying to break their handhold, basically. Trying to separate people's hands by running through them. It was incredibly popular, particularly with the more athletically inclined students in my class. Our teachers definitely, like, I have distinct memories of playing this on, like, sometimes if it was really nice out, like in the springtime, they would be like, okay, let's have class outside. And 90% of the time it was just like fuck around time, which I think was also the teachers being like, I don't want to do anything right now. We're going to have class outside and you guys can do whatever you want. But anyway, not just at like recess. I have distinct memories of this happening under adult supervision. It was a really violent game, right? Because like you're literally trying to like bowl through people. As one of the less athletically inclined students, and also one of the physically smaller students, I was quite small in my class. Like I'm now a little bit taller than average, but I was a pretty short and like small kid for a long time. You can imagine a very good strategy when playing Red Rover would be to target the weakest link that you could run through. Who was the weakest link in a lot of cases? Yours truly. Meant that when we played Red Rover, I would spend a lot of time getting the absolute shit kicked out of me. Not in a literal sense, like people were not actually beating me up, but having people run directly into your forearms and elbows and wrists. Oftentimes we'd be wearing coats or hoodies or sweaters, so I have distinct memories a couple of times of actually getting cut up on my arms or, you know, big bruises and things like that from people running directly into me. And you know, you might say, well, why would you keep doing it? And I mean, because you're in school, and if you're, well, one, you're in school and it's like, haha, fun, but also because, you know, peer pressure, right? Yeah, I didn't enjoy it very much. Also, I think, you know, anyway, being a small kid comes with a lot of baggage. That's all I'll say on that. Yeah, don't play Red Rover. It's not fun. And also definitely like I said, like we were doing this, I distinctly remember times where we were doing this and there was definitely like teacher supervision. They should not have let us do that. Red Rover shouldn't have been allowed. Like, no. At least with grounders. Like, it could get hazardous because people would be clambering, you know, in very creative ways and places. So, and I think I remember people getting in trouble for like climbing in inappropriate places more than I remember anybody getting in trouble for something like Red Rover or like violently wailing on each other with dodgeballs or whatever. It was like, no, how dare you climb in a way that is unsafe? Why don't you go beat up your classmates with a dodgeball instead? Anyway, now, as we know, now that we are adults actually don't always make good decisions. Like, realistically, some of my teachers were around the age that I am now, or if a little bit older. And, like, now I'm like, yeah, I could definitely see them being like, I don't care enough to, like, intervene in this. let the kids get their violence out. It's fine. Nowadays, if anyone was like, do you want to play Red Rover? I'd be like, fuck no. Maybe taller now, but I'm still not particularly strong. And my joints are definitely way worse than they were when I was a kid. Yeah. However, this week I went bowling, which is another thing that I haven't done since I was in middle school. Honestly, there was one year when I was in middle school that like every single kid in my class had a bowling birthday party. So like, you invite the whole class, you go to the bowling alley and you bowl for the birthday party. And it really was, I like maybe 1 or 2 years in a row, like that it was like every single person's birthday was a bowling birthday. Don't ask me why it was such a trend, because it's not like bowling was like a new thing, and it's not like bowling has since gone away, but it was like the hot thing at my middle school for a couple of years was to have a bowling birthday party. And yeah, I didn't really enjoy bowling very much. I do remember, there's like the bowling balls that are like actual bowling balls where you like the 3 holes and like, quite big and heavy. And then there's like the little like almost like bocce ball size bowling balls. And even as a kid, I was like, I could barely even hold those. Like I would do the thing where you'd hold it in both hands and like swing it from between your legs to bowl. So you probably, again, I actually, there were a lot of very like sporty athletic kids in my grade. So I think it was also like, I'm not a particularly competitive person. I don't really enjoy competitive activities. Like, I like single player video games. I like sports or physical activity that I can do without competing with someone. Like I like swimming. I like yoga, that kind of thing where it's like very chill and like I just do my own thing. So as a non-competitive kid in a class full of, now looking back, I'm like, yeah, there were like a very significant portion of my classmates were like highly competitive sports kids, like that kind of person. Probably also contributed to why I didn't enjoy myself very much, because I was like, well, first of all, they're all going to be hyper competitive, and also they're all way more athletic than me, so they're going to be way better at bowling than me. Anyway, I just got really sick of bowling as a kid. Honestly, it was like, you do one activity way too much that you don't even really enjoy to begin with, and then of course you're going to get sick of it. So I truly have not bowled in a very long time, like since middle school, because as soon as it was no longer like semi-mandatory, going to birthday parties, I was like, I'm never doing that again. But I went bowling this week for a work-related thing. It was like a team building thing. We went bowling. And initially I was like, oh, fuck, here we go. Like, I'm not going to have fun. I did actually sort of enjoy myself. Bowling, in fact, does kind of hold up. I did the best out of all of my coworkers at bowling. Now, I say that I don't like competitive activities very much, and this is true. Even competitive board games and stuff is hit or miss for me, because partially, I say I'm not a very competitive person. The truth is, I really like winning, and I really don't like losing. And that's why I don't like participating in competitive activities. It's not that I don't like the competition aspect of it anyway, especially if other people get like aggro. But I know that I'm not a very good sport. And I know that I get very grumpy when I lose. So I remove myself from those situations on purpose. However, I did the best out of all of my coworkers at bowling this week. So and you know what, honestly, even when because I ended up doing the best out of everyone, but I wasn't all, like, there were several times, like, none of us are good at bowling, to be clear. It wasn't like, this was not an all-star league bowling situation. So we were all like, throwing gutter balls and things like that. I enjoyed myself regardless. Even if I had done the worst, I still think I would have enjoyed myself. Like, this wasn't a situation where we were like really competing with each other, because we're all pretty friendly with each other. I mean, like, nobody is like, there's no animosity between us anyway, so it was fun. However, even though it was an enjoyable time, my God, like, I think like halfway through the bowling session, like half an hour in, because we did like an hour of bowling, I was already like, so it's incredibly overstimulating, right? Like, it's loud, it's bright, people have to like, raise their voices to hear each other, and then the bowling balls make noise, and then lights, and there's like arcade machines too, and it was just like, halfway through I was like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. And then afterwards, all my coworkers were like, so like, did you, like, since you did the best, like, are you gonna keep bowling? And I was like, no, I enjoyed it, but I also hated it, because, and maybe looking back, maybe that's why I disliked bowling so much as a kid too, because of that like overstimulating, like, there's way too much going on, right? So no, this has not converted me into a bowling enthusiast by any means. It was nice to do well, and it wasn't not enjoyable, but like overstimulating. I think one of my coworkers said that like they do offer like sensory friendly bowling essentially, like dimmer lights and like, you know, fewer people and with like headphones and stuff. And I was like, yeah, well, maybe I would enjoy that, but you know. Anyway, it was my one adult bowling experience. And for now, that is plenty. I have no interest in continuing to bowl at this time. I would say don't be on the lookout for my debut as a professional bowler. Let's put it that way. There's also going to be there's a new Wes Anderson movie trailer released this week. The Phoenician Scheme. Looks like it'll be fun. I enjoy a good Wes Anderson. Looks like maybe like sort of spy sort of theme, which I also do love. I love a good mystery, love a good spy novel. I really enjoyed The Grand Budapest Hotel. Here's a funny little anecdote. For a very long time, I thought Wes Anderson and Adrian Brody were the same person. And I think the only reason I assume that is because Adrian Brody has been in a lot of Wes Anderson movies, and I just sort of thought that he was Wes Anderson. I just assumed that Wes Anderson was just casting himself in his movies. There is like, I would also say Adrian Brody and Wes Anderson have similar noses. Because otherwise there is no fit. I can't make the justification like, oh, they kind of look similar, so I got them mixed up. No, they have similar noses. I straight up didn't know what Wes Anderson looked like. And I just thought, and I guess I didn't know what Adrian Brody looked like either, because I thought that Wes Anderson and Adrian Brody were the same person. It's not hurting anybody. Now I know that they're two different people. And respect to both of them. Adrian Brody's a very talented actor, and Wes Anderson's a really talented filmmaker. It's like, I am Drew, I am Danny, and we are not the same person. I am Wes, I am Adrian, and we are not the same person. In case you weren't aware, PSA to anyone who's stupid like I am and thought Wes Anderson and Adrian Brody were the same person. They're not, as it turns out. I make myself cry. It's so stupid. It was just one of those, you know, you go through life and you just assume something and you never bother to, like, I was never like, I should look up who these people are and what they look like. I just was like, no, that's Wes Anderson. Anyway, actually, I wonder if Adrian Brody's going to be in this one. No, apparently not. Adrian Brody is not on the cast list, at least according to Wikipedia. Oh my god. RIP. Although Michael Cera is apparently going to be in it. Tom Hanks, unsurprising. Can I be honest? I'm not a huge Tom Hanks fan. I didn't really like The Life Aquatic very much. Don't tell anybody, though. I feel like that's a very unpopular opinion. Anyway, they have some A-listers on that cast. I'm excited to see Michael Cera, honestly. I like him. I like his vibes. He's fun. I can't believe Wes... Okay, I'm going to make a joke that's about the fact that I thought Adrian Brody and Wes Anderson were the same person. I can't believe Wes Anderson didn't cast himself in his movie. Adrian Brody's not in it. I just think it's funny. Anyway. Can I be done now? I'm so tired. The energy we got there, I had just had to get a little pissed about the direwolves, so I got the energy going a little bit, but now I'm like, whoa. The problem is we get the energy up, and then I crash. But I need to clean my house. Anyway. Oh, also Coachella is a thing, was happening this week, maybe is currently happening today. Unclear. I didn't look up the dates. I don't care about Coachella. Someone did post a nice compilation of like old Coachella looks from like way back in the day, which was a fun to reflect on, because, you know, it's that era of like boho girl Instagram, you know. That was fun. Otherwise, I don't really care about Coachella. I realize there's a lot of stuff that I say that about, where I'm like, oh, this is a big important pop culture thing, like the Oscars, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't really give a shit. Oh well. I'm giving a voice to those who also don't give a shit about some of these things, even though part of the premise of this show is supposed to be about pop culture, which it is. It's just the parts of pop culture that are not Coachella or the Oscars. So there, argument settled. Besides that, as always, probably stuff I didn't talk about this week. I don't care. Get your own microphone. That was a mean one. That was a mean outro. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.